afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lifestyle with Dr. Moby. I'm Dr. Moby, and today we have great guest with us, Nelson Tressler, and let's welcome him. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you for coming to our show too. So, tell us about yourself, sir.
Yeah, I've got quite the unique origin story. My mom became pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. And while she was pregnant with me, her father, who was the local trash collector in a small town in central Pennsylvania, drove into the town square. There, he spotted two police officers. He stuck a gun out the window and opened fire on the police officers, killing one and critically wounding another. And eventually, he was captured and brought to stand trial, where he was facing the death penalty. And during his murder trial, my mom got up and testified that the reason that her father had shot and killed that police officer was that that police officer had raped her, and she was now pregnant with his baby, who was me. And that's how my life started. Believe it or not, it didn't get any easier from there. You know, I'm born to a 15-year-old mother, and eventually she meets the man who would become my stepfather. Come to find out, he was an alcoholic, very abusive to me and my mom, physically and emotionally. And they have 4 children in quick succession. And because of the lifestyle that they're living, a lot of the basic needs of my siblings fell upon me as the oldest. We're dirt poor, you know, no food in the refrigerator poor. It's a crapshoot whether or not the lights are going to turn on when you hit the switch poor. And because of all of this and the abuse, it's a huge effect on my social life. I remember going to school in the 4th grade, the last day of school, and looking at my report card to see who I would have for 5th grade. And I looked down at my report card, and I have straight Fs on my report card. And I shouldn't have come to any surprise. I probably missed 50 or 60 days of school that year. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell. And, I repeated the 4th grade. The next year, they placed me into special ed to try to get me the help that I needed. Come to find out I had dyslexia. And that's pretty much how my life was going until one day my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar, and there was somebody else driving home drunk from that bar, and they ended up hitting and killing him. And it was at this time, here's my mom. She's dropped out of school in the 8th grade. She's never worked outside of the home. And as hard as her life has been to this point, losing my stepfather and trying to figure out how she was going to care for 5 small children on her own pretty much broke my mom. And it was at this time that she decided that she was going to take her own life. And she attempted suicide. And fortunately, she wasn't successful. But when she did get out of the hospital, it was at that time that she decided that she couldn't care for all of us. And that's when my family got split up. And I went to go live with my grandmother, who was the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer.
Oh, wow, wow, what a story, what a story, First of all, I just would like to really thank you for coming and then sharing. I mean, it needs a lot of courage, A lot of people have some kind of, of course, a lot of have problems too. But to take a courage to share this and to write a book about it, I mean, it needs, of course, not only a lot of courage, but also passion and a lot of artistic sense. But for sure, I would congratulate at least sharing that, have strength to for everyone to. I'm sure there are a lot of people can relate to this, So there are a
No,
lot of
thank you.
there are a lot of, and so we'll kind of go one by one from here onwards. So like you said, first of all, teenage pregnancy, that's one big topic by itself. Second is, then with rape or any these if there are babies born, or what happens to, and then what is the social issues and all that. So that is like really a big discussion. We'll kind of try to sort out one by one. So let's start first with, like you said, for your actually for your mom, she was raped by this police officer.
Well, as I said, she testified to the jury to that fact because her father was facing the death penalty. There are a lot of twists and turns in that,
Uh-huh.
and as I said here today, there's still a lot of twists and turns to who my father is. So I talk a lot about that in my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club. But yeah, it's not a black and white issue.
Hmm. So is that a person still living?
Which person?
The police officer.
No, the police officer my grandfather shot and killed him. So he is dead.
Oh, he's dead. So there's no way they can. And then you have a step of father. You said, and they raised you, and but had also a lot of problems for him, too, right?
Yeah, very very abusive. He was an alcoholic. Was not a good situation. Not a great influence in our home.
Mhm.
And fortunately, he was taken out of our home by being hit and killed by a drunk driver as he was drunk walking home, on an old country road one night.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So tell me a little bit about your book. So when did you decide about writing it?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that kind of got me into the whole personal development and goals was when I went to go live with my grandmother. All of a sudden, my basic needs started to be met. There was always food in the house. There was always heat and electricity in the house.
Mhm.
I didn't have to worry about my stepfather coming home drunk and beating me or my mom. So I started to kind of look to where I was heading, and I didn't like where I was heading. And then one day, when I was at school in about seventh grade, a counselor came and talked about what it would take to get into college. And that's when kind of the bells and whistles went off in my head, is like, if I could graduate from college, the rest of my life after graduating would be easy. And that was kind of the mindset that I had at that time. But then, you know what happens whenever you tell yourself you're going to do something that's going to be hard? That voice in the back of your head just starts screaming at you all the reasons that you shouldn't even attempt it. And I remember thinking to myself right after saying I wanted to go to college was, I was in special ed. I couldn't read. I couldn't write. I couldn't spell. My mom came from a family of 15 children. Of those 15 children, only two had ever graduated from high school. None had
Mhm.
even gone to college. And so I'm thinking to myself, Nelson, you're going to be lucky to graduate high school, let alone college. But I
Mhm.
went for it. And, after setting that goal, it took me 12 years. It took four different universities. It took 4 years in the United States Air Force. But eventually I became that first person in my family to graduate from college.
Mhm.
And after doing that, I became obsessed with goals and personal development. And over the last 20 years, I use goals and personal development in every area of my life. I went into commercial real estate right out of college, and I became the number one salesman worldwide for a top 5 commercial real estate firm. I started more than 10 businesses, including one of the largest privately held pet resorts in the country. I just
Wow.
celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
So I see the power of goals. I see the power of personal development. And when I was able to exit all of those businesses and I got to a stage in my life where, what was I going to do with the rest of it? And you always get asked that question, what would you do if time and money didn't matter? And I became obsessed with goals and personal development. And I saw how different people's lives could be once they understood the power of goals and the power of striving to become that better version of themselves. And that's when I decided that that's what I wanted to do. And I had never told anybody that story about my childhood except for my wife. I moved away from that town when I joined the Air Force. I never went back to live there.
Mhm.
And I never told my children that story, never told my friends. But then I started to reflect, why did I live that type of life? Why did I live the life that I lived? And I realized that I lived that life and was able to overcome it and have some success in my life so that I could share that story and help others realize that they're not victims of their circumstances, but products of their choices. And that's when I decided to write the book and start my new company, I Got Smarter, Goals Elevated, to help other people realize how much potential lies within them and giving them the tools, the knowledge, and the support they need to finally achieve their life's biggest goals.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, and that is, again, congratulate you for, making, lemonade out of lemon. So, life is tough, and you feel that, of course, that you had a difficult start for sure. I mean, surely it was very difficult, but I think you have really uh, done great job of with personal development. Look at your success. You have a great marriage, and I mean 25 years, right? And education, Air Force. By the way, Air Force, of course, teaches you a lot of discipline and leadership qualities. And I served also as a civilian in U.S. Army, so I know that.
Yeah.
So that's a great organization to be trained by, right? And the most of leaders, or even presidents, or even admin position, they come from Department of Defense, right?
Yeah.
So which is great, and you had a great success as a commercial real estate, and so that speaks volume how you have really changed, and taken that energy into the next level and kind of work with a lot of things. So again, congratulate on that, and I think that is a great message for everyone that you might or might not be born with silver spoon and might not have all the things. But I think it's both ways. I mean, I look at there are people who are born in very wealthy family and have everything, and but unfortunately they don't become as successful as you are, and then they actually go reverse and they end up with drugs, alcohol, or bad relations and so forth, right?
Yeah,
So
and that was one of the things. I mean, I was going to call the book the Lucky Sperm Club because I
yeah,
really felt like the situation that I was born in and the fact that I was able to make it out of that actually gave me a lot of the fuel and a lot of the inspiration and motivation to go out there and succeed and do something with my life. And just like you said, I think a lot of people who are born into privilege, they don't have that same drive because they've really been given a lot of things throughout their entire lives. And yeah, I think it can work against you if you have all of that. And we've seen that in the news, with these people who are born into privilege, they get into trouble and get into drugs and alcohol
yeah.
and trouble. Yeah.
Well, name all of the mostly, I mean, we're not pinpointing to anyone, but generalization, not a good idea. But still, I think it comes down to basic concept is personal development. Doesn't matter which family you're born to or where you are. You are, only product of what you want to become, or change yourself. And choice is yours, right? Choice is yours. You can be, yes, everybody is blessed with certain things, but they could be deficient in other, but that's normal. Nobody is complete, right? But you
Yeah.
know
No, I think you're exactly where you choose to be. And,
yeah,
I choose to be exactly where I'm at in my health and with my wealth and with my relationships. So I believe you're in 100% control of your success, and you get there by the choices that you make. And I
mm,
believe that, that's the way that we get to reinvent ourselves every single time we take that opportunity to choose. What are we choosing? We're choosing what we want and where we want to go and who we want to be.
mm. And a lot of things are important, but still, look at with COVID also. It comes down to your own well-being, your own physical strength, your own, nothing matters, nothing really matters. It all comes down to how healthy you are, and how well you have taken care of your health, and that's going to determine, yeah, are you gonna survive through this crisis or not, for any crisis, for any crisis. So if you have, I'm glad that you really blossomed into something really nice, and which is great. So let's share that wealth with for others. So what was something that helped you to move towards positive development?
Yeah, I mean, I think being able to graduate from college and realizing that I could do hard things, things that a few years earlier I thought was impossible, but I just started taking the steps that I thought I needed to do in order to achieve that. And once I graduated from college, I thought, wow, what else can I do with goals and with personal development? And I started to, use it and become obsessed with goals and personal development, and started to set about designing the type of life that I wanted to live. And I realized that I was in control. And I think a lot of that had to do with my upbringing, where a lot of things happened to me not out of my own fault. A lot of things did happen to me because of my actions, but a lot were out of my control. And then once I realized that, uh, bad things happen, but I get to react on how I'm going to react to those things that happen to me. And I just started to realize that I was in control, and I got to direct my life in the direction that it wanted to go. And I realized that, the harder I worked, the better things happened for me, and the better choices that I made, the better my life turned out. And I realized also that when I made bad choices, I had to deal with those consequences as well. So I think the number one takeaway that I realized was I was in control of my own success, and I
Mhm.
took 100% responsibility for my success.
Great, great, and that is true. So, were there any baby steps or some of those successes which you felt really triggered or push you to the next step?
Well, I started to have some success in commercial real estate and in my sales career, and that kind of blossomed into leading me into starting and running businesses, and had some success there. And you know, success begets success. And
That's true.
when I realized that I could be successful in sales and in real estate, I thought, you know what, I can start businesses as well. And then I got a little bit of success in there, and I started other businesses and bigger businesses, and was able to grow, one of those businesses into one of the largest privately held pet resort chains in the country. And it was just those baby steps in it, and those little successes that gave me the confidence and the understanding that I could do things if I put my mind to it. And I just kept going and kept striving and kept pushing the envelope and trying to reach my potential.
And that is true. Baby steps you do, and then gradually gives you more confidence in yourself, and then of course that success leads to the next and next. So were there anything which you thought, uh, try not to do, knowing what were the results, or you have seen, like, for example, drugs or alcohol or any of those, um, were you kind of vigilant about that?
Yeah, you know what? I never did drugs, never have done a drug in my life. I saw where it led. I saw where those people ended up and what type of lives they were living. So I always stayed away from that, fortunately.
Mhm.
I did have a rant with some alcohol early on in my life, mostly before I was 21.
Mm.
And I realized that that was not leading me to where I wanted to go either. And I don't partake of alcohol anymore either. So I mean, those are two things that I think, in my opinion, take away from me becoming that better version of myself.
Mm.
So, yeah, I've kind of put both of those aside and focus my time and efforts on things that I feel are going to get me to where I want to go.
And that is important because, a lot of people, when they have stresses, when they have some of, things not going right. So one of the mechanism they use is to have uh, things which try to suppress it, namely alcohol. So they would, because they feel better, you know
Yeah.
but that depletes a lot of neurotransmitter in the brain, and then that feeling is very short lived, and then next thing is you become worse. And so they kind of go hand in hand. Problem is, if you are trying to do the treatment with it, of that situation, then a problem, there are a lot of other problem which starts with that. So I mean, do you need help? Sure, you can get counseling, but if you make it worse with drugs or anything, then whole set of side effects or problems start with those. And to get out of that, uh, you know, I think I always say it's like a quagmire or quicksand. That you are there and you're going down and down. The more you actually panic, the worse it gets, and you're going to drown further. So best is, kind of find a way out, and then you'll be fine, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think it's a lot like throwing gas on a fire. If you're in a bad situation, or you're stressed, or you're going through hard times, and then you turn to drugs or alcohol. I mean, the fire's not going to get less; it's actually going to get more, and it's going to get worse.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, after the problem is gone and has resolved itself, now you have new issues that stem from the drug use and the alcohol use. So I
Yeah.
think that's always never made sense to me, why people want to turn to that, because a lot of times the problem is bigger whenever you add those two things to any situation.
And I see a lot of course, patients too, and they would come and say, "Yeah, we feel good, doc. We feel great after drinking." I said, "Yeah, that's true. Like, what you're saying is not wrong. But at the expense is very high. Because it's going to feel good for very short-lived time, and then you will get worse. You get kind of into panic, because you can't be drunk all the time. You can be, so that's not gonna happen, right?
Well,
So
and I think it goes back to a lot of our mindset is that instant gratification. Yeah,
yeah.
you probably feel better after you drink a few beers initially, but
Yeah.
then you have to deal with the consequences of what that was, as opposed to taking the long term perspective and knowing that
Mm.
a year from now or 5 years from now, if you did something else, you're going to be better off, as opposed to feeling good right now and in the moment.
And that is very important. A lot of people also use for sleep issues. So if they are stressed and they can't sleep very well, they will drink to sleep. So, uh, but that's the worst thing to do, because it changes your sleep is supposed to be beneficial for you, and if you drink to sleep or use medication to sleep, unfortunately, the beneficial effect is totally gone, or is the reverse then, because the natural sleep is the best, not artificial induced by drugs or alcohol. The end is not good at all. So those are, we have seen with a lot of celebs, unfortunately, the diet, as you read on the autopsy reports, most of them have this problem with using drugs to sleep or to calm things down, unfortunately. But, so also some people have, uh, they try to do that by overeating or undereating, right? So you can develop problem with eating disorders. Both ways, they can gain a lot of weight, and I see that you are physically really in good shape. So how do you maintain yourself in?
Yeah, I have a morning routine. I work out almost every morning. I try to work out every morning and stay fit. I want to have energy to achieve my life's dreams and goals. And I think being in good physical shape and
Mm.
having the energy to do that will help that. But if you're not taking care of yourself, I mean, I truly believe that health is wealth. There's nothing else that matters. If you're not healthy, if you're sick and you're not feeling well, it's hard to focus on anything else in your life, whether that be, your career or your relationships or your lifestyle. When your health is gone, there's really nothing else that will catch your focus but your health. So I try to take good care of myself. I try to work out so I have that energy. And I think if you keep your health at a point that's good, that allows you to focus on all the other areas of your life.
Hmm. And that is very important that, health is the best thing and best defense against a lot of problem, whether physical or whether it is mental, because as we have seen with COVID, one of the biggest risk for complications was your health. So if you have a lot of problems with health, then unfortunately we're getting more of the problems with COVID, as well as catching COVID quicker than the rest of the population. So I think that speaks volume about success for sure. So any final thoughts you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they've been inspired or motivated by our conversation today. I mean, I would just suggest to them to take action now and take action where you're at. So many people out there want to wait for some artificial date or artificial time, or they want to wait until all the traffic lights are green before they start on their journey of success. But then by that time, something comes up or their motivation or inspiration has waned a bit. So what I would say is, start where you're at and start now. Knowledge is very rarely the problem when it comes to our success. The problem is that we don't execute on the things that we know we need to do. So start where you're at and start now.
And that is a beautiful message. So for everybody watching the show, just remember, you have solutions lying in yourself. So explore your strength and just use it. Look at Nathan. He wasn't fortunate first, but look where he is, and that's what it counts. Is that, we have the solutions, we have the strength, but we have to explore and we have to look deep inside and do self-reflection and just work with your strengths, and you'll be fine. Nobody's perfect and nobody can be, and but we know that hard work and dedication, honesty always brings great results. So with that, thank you for watching our show. Take care. Thank you. And check his book. Okay, so you give your website one more time.
Yeah, you can find me at nelsontressler.com, and the book is available everywhere books are sold. It's called The Unlucky Sperm Club. It's available at Amazon and Audible.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you.